2 American citizens are dead. The administration blamed the victims, and the officials responsible are still in power. Senator Mark Kelly just said what millions are thinking. Enough is enough.
Senator from Arizona.
Mr. President, like every American, over the past few weeks, I've watched the videos of Americans being shoved and beaten and pepper sprayed and shot and killed by federal immigration agents. Over the weekend, Americans watched what happened to Alex Preddy in Minneapolis, a U.S. citizen, an ICU nurse at the VA who took care of veterans. He was shot and killed by federal agents for no good reason. His family lost someone they loved, and it all happened in the blink of an eye. Before that, it was Renee Good. Renee was a mother and a wife. She was shot and killed in her car, and her family will never see her again. 2 Americans are dead at the hands of their government. That should demand the highest levels of accountability. It is that simple. Instead, this administration has lied to the American people. They have slandered these Americans as terrorists. They have told us not to believe what we see with our own eyes. They blamed Alex Preddy because he was in lawful possession of a firearm. They have tried to block the investigations into what happened. We also know that these are not isolated incidents. Just the other day, ICE conducted a series of workplace raids at a sports bar in Phoenix. Places where families go to just have some wings and watch a game. The agents wore masks and tactical gear. And I watched a video of ICE officers doing a drive-by, spraying a woman in the face who was just standing on the sidewalk. They sprayed her with mace. She was not doing anything wrong. They violated her constitutional rights. These are the actions of a rogue agency that is storming cities, violating the constitutional rights of Americans, and creating volatile situations where tragedies happen. This is not making Americans safer. It is clearly doing the opposite thing, and it has to stop. I am the son of 2 police officers. From a very young age, I learned that law enforcement should exist to serve and protect people. We can enforce our laws without this chaos. We can enforce our laws without federal agents killing people in the streets of American cities. We should demand that as senators, as Republicans and Democrats, as Americans. We should all demand better. And we should use our power to make that happen. That's why I will not vote for the Department of Homeland Security budget this week, because that agency needs an overhaul from the top down and the bottom up. That's why the head of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, and the guy who everybody knows is actually making the decisions and calling the shots and running the show, Stephen Miller, both of them should be out of jobs because they have lost the trust of the American people. And that's why I introduced the Stop Excessive Force in Immigration Act to rein in and stop this abuse of power. This bill sets limits on the use of force and the use of firearms by immigration agents. It restricts the use of tear gas, flashbang grenades, and pepper balls. It requires body cameras to be used, and it restricts the use of face masks. It requires accountability and transparency so that when somebody is hurt or killed, the American people will get some answers. This is pretty basic stuff. It should be what all Americans expect from law enforcement, and it should be something that both Republicans and Democrats alike can support. Because I believe that we are better than this. I believe we can keep communities safe without this chaos. But that depends on all of us stepping up right now at this moment before another American ends up dead in the streets. Thank you, and I yield the floor.
What Senator Mark Kelly laid out on the Senate floor wasn't partisan rhetoric. It was a moral indictment. Americans watched the videos. We saw federal agents shove, beat, mace, and ultimately kill U.S. citizens in Minneapolis. Alex Prey, an ICU nurse who cared for veterans, was shot dead by federal agents. Before him, Renee Good, a mother, was killed in her car. Two families shattered forever, not by criminals, but by the government sworn to protect them. And instead of accountability, the Trump administration responded with lies. They slandered the dead as terrorists. They told Americans not to trust their own eyes. They blamed lawful gun ownership instead of reckless federal force. They obstructed investigations instead of demanding transparency. That is not law enforcement. That is authoritarian behavior. Kelly made something crystal clear. This isn't isolated. Masked ICE agents are storming workplaces, firing mace at bystanders, and creating chaos in American cities. This is what happens when leadership is reckless and unchecked, when cruelty replaces professionalism, when intimidation replaces public safety. That's why Kelly drew a hard line. He refused to fund DHS until it is overhauled, and he directly called for Stephen Miller, the architect of this brutality, and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem to be fired, because leadership that loses the trust of the American people cannot continue to wield deadly power. Kelly didn't just condemn, he acted. His Stop Excessive Force in Immigration Act would limit the use of lethal force, ban military-style crowd control weapons, require body cameras, restrict masks, and enforce transparency when someone is injured or killed. These are basic standards every law enforcement agency should already meet. This moment is bigger than party. It's about whether America chooses accountability over impunity, democracy over fear, and justice over brutality. Because if we don't act now, another American will die, and the excuses will already be written.